Born on the 11th of May 2000, Yuki Tsunoda developed a passion for driving not long after, at just 4 years old. Encouraged and inspired by his father, Tsunoda rose through the Japanese karting scene before transitioning to the single-seater racing of F4 in 2016. Backed by Honda through their Formula Dream project, Tsunoda powered through his debut race to finish on the podium in second place. In 2017, his first full season of the F4 Japanese Championship, Tsunoda claimed his first win at Okinawa, as well as the regional championship title, whilst finishing third in the national championship. The following year, Tsunoda racked up 7 victories, clinching the F4 Japanese Championship title by 14 points. With Honda teaming up with F1 heavyweights Red Bull Racing, Tsunoda was brought into the RB Young Drivers program and joined Genza Motorsports for the inaugural FIA Formula 3 season in 2019, claiming victory once, along with 2 other podium finishes, ultimately finishing the season in 9th place, having scored all the Genza team's points. In the Euro Formula Open, Tsunoda reached the top of the podium once again, this time at Hockenheim, for the German-based Motorpark team, finishing the season in 4th, a result he would repeat in the 2020 Toyota Racing Series. Racing with the Carlin team in the 2020 FIA Formula 2 Championship, the Japanese rising star overcame a somewhat disappointing and infelicitous start to the season, winning his first F2 sprint at Silverstone, then taking pole and victory at Spa-Francorchamps. Tsunoda went on to finish the season on a high, taking another win in Bahrain and claiming 3rd place in the championship. Formula 1 was now calling. With the backing of both Honda and Red Bull, Tsunoda was signed to AlphaTauri to compete alongside Pierre Gasly in the 2021 Formula 1 season, choosing 22 as his car number. At his debut in Bahrain, he earned praise for his impressive points finish, with F1 technical director Ross Brawn declaring Tsunoda the best rookie in years. Following a disappointing 12th at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix and 15th in Portugal, Tsunoda would retire from the Spanish Grand Prix due to an electrical failure and finish 16th at Monza. In Azerbaijan, the young rookie qualified well despite crashing in Q3 and went on to finish 7th. It was P13 in France, with a P10 at the Styrian GP, his 3rd points finish of the season. Despite qualifying 7th at the Austrian Grand Prix, Tsunoda would finish outside the points in 12th. His fortunes were flipped at Silverstone, where he qualified 16th but finished 10th. And in Hungary, he would earn more points with the 6th place finish, his best result so far. The second half of the season would not be as kind to Tsunoda, with only 1 points finish in the next 10 races. But he would finish the season on a high with a fantastic P4 at Abu Dhabi, his best F1 result to date. In doing so, the Japanese rookie would secure 14th in the Drivers' Championship and another year at AlphaTauri. Following a mixed but ultimately successful first season, Yuki Tsunoda's second year in Formula 1 would prove to be challenging. A poorly performing AlphaTauri and a growing yet somewhat unfair reputation for being overly emotional on track overshadowed the sophomore driver's rookie results. However, there were silver linings to the clouds of the 2022 F1 season. Whilst Tsunoda was undeniably dominated by teammate Pierre Gasly in 2021 in qualifying, race results, and Drivers' Championship points, 2022 would see the Japanese driver close the gap on the Frenchman. In 2021, Tsunoda outqualified Gasly only once, whereas in 2022, he outqualified Gasly 8 times. Similarly, in race results, Pierre finished ahead of Yuki 17 times in 2021, but only 12 times in 2022. It should be noted both drivers fell in the drivers' rankings in their second year as teammates, but the gap between them shrank from 5 positions to 3 in Gasly's favor. So how did Tsunoda perform in the individual races of his second season? At the season opener in Bahrain, Tsunoda finished 8th after qualifying 16th, but was marred by bad luck in Saudi Arabia, failing to set a qualifying time due to a fuel issue and then failing to start the race due to a power unit failure. Australia would see him finish outside the points in 15th, with the season's best finish of 7th at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Tsunoda would finish the first North American race in Miami in 12th and gain a point in Spain. Unfortunately, Yuki would fail to score a point in the next 12 races. A clash with the wall in Monaco, a DRS issue in Azerbaijan, an engine penalty and pit exit crash in Canada, a collision with teammate Gasly at the British Grand Prix, a collision with Esteban Ocon in France, and a twice-lapped 19th in Hungary would test Tsunoda's resilience and determination. After a pit lane start in Belgium, he would end the race in a commendable 13th place. The Dutch GP would not only end in retirement, but also a reprimand and penalty for the next race in Italy, after Tsunoda drove back to the pit lane without his seatbelt fully secured. In Italy, he received 2 more penalties after failing to slow for yellow flags in practice. At Singapore, Yuki would qualify well in 10th, but ultimately crash out on lap 35. Although finishing outside of the points at his home race of Japan, Tsunoda could rest easy knowing he had finished ahead of teammate Gasly. Tsunoda's pointless run would end with a 10th place finish when F1 returned to America. In Mexico, a collision with future teammate Daniel Ricciardo would end Tsunoda's race, and Brazil would see him finish lapped in 17th. An 11th in Abu Dhabi would cement Tsunoda's 17th place in the 2022 Drivers' World Championship. Pierre Gasly's departure from AlphaTauri would further compound a difficult season for Tsunoda, splitting the now famed Yukiya power couple and leaving the Japanese sophomore as presumed team leader for the 2023 season. But this princely position, and indeed his throne, were not secure. The presumption of leadership was anything but guaranteed. A new challenge was coming in 2023. How would Tsunoda fare? With the exit of Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda would be joined at AlphaTauri by Nick de Vries, the 2019 Formula 2 and 2020 to 2021 Formula E champion. The 28-year-old de Vries had just a handful of free practice sessions and a single race weekend to his name, having substituted for Williams at the 2022 Italian Grand Prix when Alex Albon could not race due to appendicitis. Starting from 8th place after various drivers were penalized, the Dutchman went on to finish the race in 9th, an admirable debut for any rookie. But a rookie he was. And yet, he was tipped by many to assume the leadership of AlphaTauri and mentor his more experienced teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Red Bull's F1 teams director and head of their driver development program Helmut Marko stated, "Yuki is still young and doesn't have the experience technically, so Nick can lead the team. Judging by his experience and personality, Nick should be the team leader." Many F1 commentators believed Nick de Vries would be the death knell to Tsunoda's career, overshadowing and outperforming the Japanese driver. They couldn't have been more wrong. In an AlphaTauri more akin to a tractor than an F1 car, Yuki Tsunoda dragged his team into the points on multiple occasions, while de Vries could only get as high as 12th. In their head-to-head matchups, Tsunoda outqualified and finished ahead of de Vries 8 out of 10 races, and whilst the two each bested the other at alternate sprint events, Tsunoda outqualified his teammate at both. With just 2 points to their name and as many tractors in their garage, the AlphaTauri team made a tough and arguably unjust call to release Nick de Vries. The man who would be king had been thoroughly bested by Tsunoda. So, surely, Yuki would be elevated to team leader now. No. Out with the new, in with the old. De Vries was replaced by Daniel Ricciardo, the Toro Rosso alumni, race winner, and then Red Bull reserve driver, on loan from the sister team. The general F1 fandom greeted this news with great applause. The Honey Badger was back and gunning not only for Yuki Tsunoda, but for Sergio Perez as well. Checo's seat at Red Bull was believed to be up for grabs if Daniel could prove himself worthy after a lackluster and destructive mid-season drive by the Mexican. And so it was that Ricciardo joined the grid once more at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and a new threat presented itself to Yuki Tsunoda. In their first race together, Ricciardo finished ahead of Tsunoda by 2 places, but outside the points. In their second race in Belgium, Yuki finished ahead of Daniel by 6 places and in the points. The true test of who was the better driver would have to wait, however, as Ricciardo hit the wall in free practice at the Dutch GP and broke his hand. He would miss the next 5 races. The battle of Tsunoda and Ricciardo was, much like Daniel's hand, on ice. Enter Liam Lawson, AlphaTauri's reserve driver and Tsunoda's third threat. The Kiwi driver hit the ground running, with just 1 free practice session to acclimatize to the car and track. Lawson qualified in 20th, over a second behind the 19th placed Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas, and over 3 seconds behind Tsunoda, but would finish 13th, promoted ahead of teammate Yuki, who received a 5-second penalty for a collision with George Russell. A commendable debut for Liam, under difficult circumstances, no doubt. At the next race in Italy, Tsunoda would out-qualify Lawson, but to no avail, as he suffered a mechanical failure on the formation lap and could not start the race. Singapore proved to be Lawson's greatest weekend, and the best for AlphaTauri so far, as he managed to qualify 10th ahead of the Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, whilst Tsunoda languished in 15th after failing to set a time in Q2, although he topped the timesheets in Q1, setting the fastest Saturday lap time of any of the 4 Red Bull drivers. Tsunoda's car would be fatally damaged by Perez in the opening laps, forcing him to retire, while Lawson would go on to finish 9th, AlphaTauri's highest position of the season up to that point. With Yuki suffering 3 poor results in a row, Liam seemed poised to stake his claim on the team. In Japan, Tsunoda's home race, the local hero delighted fans by qualifying 9th ahead of Lawson in 11th, but would finish out of the points in 12th, 1 place behind Lawson. Crucially, Tsunoda was given some security in Japan, with AlphaTauri announcing he would be racing with them in 2024, with Ricciardo as his teammate. Lawson would remain with the team, returning to his role as reserve driver. With that settled, the Qatar GP would see Tsunoda out-qualify Lawson for the 4th time by over a second. The Kiwi driver would end his brief stint in F1 rather uninspiringly, finishing 17th, 2 places behind Tsunoda in 15th. Lawson would, however, finish the season 20th in the drivers' standings, ahead of beleaguered American rookie Logan Sargent and the vanquished Nick De Vries, a not insignificant achievement in only 5 races. But the Badger was back again. Tsunoda had demolished De Vries, stood his ground against Lawson. How would he fare against the returning 8-time race winner? Quite well, actually. At the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, Tsunoda would qualify ahead of Ricciardo and improve on his and AlphaTauri's best results of the season, clinching the fastest lap of the race and 8th place, after Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc were disqualified. Tsunoda had doubled his team's points in just 1 race, but the glory of Texas was soon overshadowed by the toughest race weekend Tsunoda would face in the 2023 season. Ricciardo went into the Mexican Grand Prix with a point to prove, and he did just that. Qualifying 4th, Daniel had the paddock enthralled. Tsunoda would be starting at the back of the pack after replacing his power unit. The Honey Badger had an excellent race, finishing in P7, his team's best result. Yuki had a terrible race. Or rather, Yuki had a terrible moment. Having driven through the pack up to 8th place, and with the possibility of even catching his teammate, Tsunoda attempted a pass on McLaren rookie Oscar Piastri with disastrous results. Tsunoda spun off the track, losing precious time and positions, and rejoined the race in 16th. His anger and dismay were broadcast to the whole world. He rebuffed his engineer over the radio, saying, "I don't need any more information. I don't need anything." While Daniel Ricciardo basked in the yellow-filtered limelight of Mexico, Yuki Tsunoda was visibly upset after the race, declining to comment on his incident with Piastri. Once again, his emotions and temperament were being called into question, with many commentators and fans calling for his seat to be given to Lawson, while Ricciardo was being hailed as Perez's obvious replacement at Red Bull, after the Mexican driver had a horrible home race. It seemed the reign of Ricciardo was well underway, but a lot can happen in 1 week. Tsunoda would prove his critics wrong, as he showed tremendous resilience and ability in Brazil, achieving AlphaTauri's only sprint points and highest finish of the season in 6th place on the Saturday, whilst storming to 9th place on the Sunday. He thoroughly outperformed Ricciardo that weekend. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and AlphaTauri would likely be glad to leave their performance behind in Nevada, after a 14th place for Ricciardo and a DNF for Tsunoda. More promise could be found under the lights of Abu Dhabi. In what many of his fans would label the greatest race of his career, Tsunoda staked his claim on AlphaTauri, becoming only the 5th driver to lead a lap for the team formerly known as Toro Rosso in its 17-year history. Yuki finished in 8th place, securing 4 more points for his team, despite a questionable strategy. But perhaps most importantly, the fandom of F1 united behind him and voted him driver of the day, a chorus of assent declaring him king. Long may he reign. Ricciardo finished outside the points in 11th. Yuki Tsunoda's efforts earned him 14th in the Drivers' World Championship, and he single-handedly bested the Alfa Romeo and Haas F1 teams in the Constructors' Championship, lifting his team to 8th place. In spite of an overwhelmingly critical commentariat, poor strategy, a tractor, and 3 teammates, Tsunoda proved he deserved his place on the F1 grid in 2024. So what does the future hold for the diminutive hero, other than opening a restaurant? He is poised to become the greatest Japanese driver in F1 history. He is only the 2nd of his countrymen to lead a Grand Prix, and with a better car, which the 2024 AlphaTauri Visa Lockheed Martin Racing Bulls Burger King Cash App promises to be, it is likely he will do it again. A podium seems likely in 2024 as well, and a win is a tantalizing possibility. But beyond 2024, should he have the machinery to do so, Tsunoda will be racing to fulfill his dream of becoming world champion, and may very well do it.
大きなモチベーションになっているものは常に日頃から、自分が一番速いドライバーになりたい、世界一番速いドライバーになりたいっていうのと、日本人としても世界的にも歴史に残るようなドライバーになりたいです。今後の夢はワールドチャンピオンになることです。
I originally aimed to make this video under 10 minutes and to be as unbiased as possible, but it was not to be. Yuki is my favorite driver on the grid, and I wanted to make my first video about him. The next video will be a what-if scenario of the 2023 season, so please subscribe if you'd like to see it, leave a like if you can, and share the video with whoever you think may enjoy it. Thank you for watching. The Dutchman went on to finish the race in ninth, an admirable, an admirable